This is something I did not see coming, where in recent times the focus has been about something else for this franchise that I so fell in love with back in 2016, where 2024 is the year of sequels yet again, including that of Moana 2. Because thinking in terms of the live action film that is supposed to come out and set next year, this is just utterly surprising and shocking to hear about, which I'm sort of grateful for. I know my feelings have been a bit mixed because of that, and certainly because of the remake wanting to prefer a sequel in the first place, but I have generally been super excited and surprised about this entire announcement, considering my own love for the original as much as anyone else's on this site, especially about Moana and what it means to me. But then again, I'm still also not super excited about this, considering that Disney's animation focus in recent years and what they were going to do with other sequels with Zootopia first, and Wish disappointing all of us, where I don't know where we are headed in this future. Because remember, Disney's track record of sequels has been nothing short of awful. Frozen 2 and Ralph were terrible, where they stopped a little after that because it was horrible to do so, where Moana 2 is now the third release sequel to come from the studio in recent modern times. I mean, remembering that after Moana is where Disney sequels actually came into play again for the studio, so I guess it makes sense other than the fact that this could have been a buffer by The Rock himself to play the character more since he's going to do it again in live action. Which still worries me because this is the current strategy as well, since the film was announced by everyone's favorite CEO, Bob Iger, who did announce Frozen 3 and 4 back in November, where it feels like they are more reliant to restore some of the public trust after their recent missteps. Where even funny enough, considering all the talk about the horrible looking Megamind 2 sequel, the director of this very movie, Dave Derrick Jr., actually worked as a storyboard artist on that movie and of course on Moana as well, within a few others which aren't that very good or good. Which does make me sad that it isn't Musker and Clements directing this, since I would want to see more of them and with how good their Disney movies are for me, but still understandable considering that a series was also worked in between and this is going to be the rework series. It's one of the most interesting and stunning decisions I've ever seen at all, where it didn't feel like this was even possible to happen since The Rock announced live action a year ago and the series seemed more justifiable on Disney Plus to actually create that. Remembering the videos I and many others made grieving over that announcement, where I just feel so jittery and again stunned to even think anymore. Because this is a movie that has constantly topped the streaming charts every year, even more than Frozen, where many families that I have talked to have had their kids play this movie on repeat. They love this movie and sing the songs that I also love, amidst other things, where most of the guys who did actually do the first, like Mark Mancina, are coming back to score the music again, where the only exception out of this is the fact that they haven't listed Lin-Manuel here at all, which actually makes sense considering what it actually came from. Just more details that are certainly unexpected with the crew that are working on this, and I still applaud them for that, at the very least reworking the series as it seems for Disney Plus and releasing it to theaters, because that seems like a much more smart move to bring people back into theaters compared to previous other films that they released that could have been vice versa. And the art that has been teased seems very promising to me. Like, there is much more to tell about the oceans and I'm all here for it. This is the stuff I personally wanted because of the fact of my own Polynesian ancestry, where I've been so grateful that Disney has decided to explore all of that in the past with who I am with Lilo a bit since I'm Hawaiian, and of course in Moana with Auli'i being Hawaiian herself too. Thinking in terms that at the very least the Lilo sequels that Disney did on direct-to-DVD and for the series as well are still on the higher end that I really enjoy of their terrible sequels. Like, seriously, how did this all go under the radar for so long since we have focused more on Frozen? Because again, with that, the series has been clearly worked for quite some time, where I hope and probably do know for 100% fact that Auli'i is also coming back to voice the character, since she has done the character outside beyond the first film in things like Once Upon a Studio, and then of course the fact that she didn't want to reprise a role in the live action for others to take shape, since that would make more sense. Because she certainly deserves such a success as an actor, since earlier this year she also did co-star in the Mean Girls musical. All of which that generally makes much more sense and makes me happier, since you realize in the past year or two that is a mainstream movie have unfortunately made me disappointed. Which also makes me upset with this thing in that regard, considering it would probably buffer the live action film as well, since that still is going to be released soon after. Which makes no sense at all and gives me more concern that the live action Frozen is just around the damn corner after the sequels are released, or even in between that. Like, thanks Dwayne, my opinion about you have certainly been souring over time. I mean, I know I just said it before, but I am just generally stunned right now that this right now is the reality that we live in, that this is is the path that Disney is taking moving forward, even as such a thing has been in the works for quite some time, thinking in terms of how the development of other films like Wish actually began in 2018, and the record of other Disney films like Tango beginning in the early 90s and so on. It's like, some things do take a lot longer than we realize since they are no easy task to animate. But then again, like we just said, this is just another vast disappointment because we are going with another damn year without any freaking 2D animated film from any of the studios at all, where you have Kung Fu Panda 4, Inside Out 2, Despicable Me 4, and so forth, where this is just the icing on the cake, where it's all 3D this year, where I just hope it's going to be good. I mean, the only thing a man can really say about this, because of the horrendous track record that has existed for Disney, is that we hope that it is good. But then again, with the ideas that they had for some sequels, they still can surprise and stun us, where for the most part, their own sequels, including Pixar's, do actually increase in box office due to people's love of the first franchise with the films, where I can see this being potentially very big because of what we said earlier with streaming success and how it's generally one of the best modern Disney films ever released. And because it's a reworked series from Disney Plus, it still makes me question what film they were going to release this year, if any. Since Wish's disappointment, the strategy has been very quiet, but also anticipated since D23 is happening this year, which I'm going to go to definitely attend for the sake of being a Disney fan. Just about what kind of film, since they announced some other projects with other certain directors that are in the works. Because again, like I just said, Zootopia 2 was in the works that was announced last year, and Frozen 3 and 4 in there as well, announced by Iger himself, which could be the prime strategy in the meantime, even though Jennifer Lee and other heads at Disney Animation announced that they do have a bunch of original films in the works at the same time. Still keeping the question of 2D open to return to, but definitely not committing to do so anytime probably in the last few years of this very decade. Just focusing more and more on brands that they rely on, or probably stories if they can at all work to restore some sort of trust, like I just said. So I guess since this has just been released, I will keep my reaction to surprise rather than excited or worried, because I don't know what quite to expect out of this, what kind of story they are going to tell with the people they are working on from the initial miniseries now justified as a movie released at the tail end of this year. It's one we will keep a close eye on in the near future that does seem a bit brighter than the recent times that Disney has produced, with the hope that it can be good as recent just as the first film or Encanto, or just as good as the first Frozen if that's the type of quality we can get out of this. I wish I had more to say about this, but this is truly just the beginning of something unexpected that we can hope turns out for the better in the future, something that can alleviate the concerns of the past. And I'm all done now, so goodbye.